So, have you ever had one of those people that you just totally look up to and you want to be like when you get older? Well, I had one of those people. He was my grandpa Ben, and he was an amazing guy. He was brilliant and funny, and he could like take anything apart and figure out how to make it work again. Like if it was broken, he could fix it. It was awesome. And you know, growing up, I remember, going to like the junkyard with him and we'd look for random stuff here and there. And then also I would get to go to his shop every now and then. He worked for an engineering place downtown called Eversman, I think. And it was really cool because we'd go down there every now and then, and I would be able to work in his shop. Basically, I was playing around and, having fun. And the stuff that he would design farm equipment for International Harvester, which was sweet. I mean, he was able to do that for a long time. And he was a man that was ahead of his time. Like, he would design stuff that, it still amazes me now that he was able to design it like in the 50s. And it was really cool. Like, one of his inventions was a sugar beet picker, and it had an optical eye on it. So this optical eye, when you're dragging it behind the back of a trailer, it would look at the sugar beet and see, oh yeah, I can pick this sugar beet, but this one's not quite ready yet. And that was just awesome. I mean, to be able to create that in the 50s, that's huge. And, he was awesome like that. I always wanted to be like him. And one of the times I remember we went to his shop, and it was pretty cool. He was working on this welding project, so he gave me this welding mask, and I was like, what do you do with this? So he's like, oh yeah, you just bring it down because it's going to be so bright. It's going to be brighter than the sun that you don't want to look at the flame. And I was like, okay, sure, whatever. I was like 8. So I pretty much listened to him no matter what, it was cool because he knew what he was talking about and I had no idea. So I was just in awe every time I was around him. And so you'd start welding this project and you could just see all the sparks. They're just like all over the place. And that was really cool to see. And I could actually see it through the super dark glass and not be blind. And, it was just things like that would, make me want to be more like him because he could figure out how to do something without really even looking at the directions. I think that's probably why I don't do directions very much unless I get stuck. And it was really cool. I mean, he was always there, and no matter what, I could just ask him like how something worked. And that was really cool growing up. That kind of started to change though when he got older. It was probably about 8th grade, 9th grade when he was diagnosed with Parkinson's. And Parkinson's is a disease that it works off of your your nervous system. I don't know. But his hands would like uncontrollably shake. It wasn't like earthquake, but he would just have a shake, and he couldn't control it. It was just there. And we were totally able to work with that. But when he started to really go downhill, I was still in high school. I don't remember if it was junior year or sophomore year or whatever, but we ended up my grandma ended up having to put him into a home because she just couldn't care for him in the right way. And at that point, he was also diagnosed with Alzheimer's. So it was harder to see him because he wouldn't always remember you, but he would kind of remember you. And that type of a thing was just, it was kind of heartbreaking because growing up and wanting to be like my grandfather all the time and then seeing him just deteriorate and go downhill so quick, it just like, it started to kind of crush us as his grandchildren. And I don't know what it was, but you know, one of the times that I went to go see him, we had his walker there. And of course he needed it because he couldn't walk very well on his own, but it had wheels on it. It wasn't like one of those normal walkers that you see that have those little tennis balls on the front so they don't make dragging sounds. And that was pretty cool because it had handbrakes on it. And just one day he told my cousin Jeff and I, he's like, this is how this works. And you pull this lever and there's like a mechanical advantage, and it was something like that. I don't totally remember exactly what he said, but it was really cool just to see that, yeah, his brains were still there, even if it was only part of the time. So that's kind of the background story on my grandfather and how I really wanted to be around him all the time. And then when I went to, after I graduated high school, it was kind of hard because he wasn't able to go to graduation because, well, he was in the home, and it just wouldn't have been good. And I went to go see him after I graduated and show him that I actually graduated, and that I actually did good. It wasn't like I squeaked by. It was, you know, I actually graduated pretty well. And, you know, he wasn't totally there, but I gave him another photo of some more construction equipment that I shot, and his eyes always perked up when he could see some of the work that I've done. And it was kind of a bittersweet visit, because after I visited him, I was leaving to go to Nebraska to work at a summer camp out there, and which was called Covenant Cedars. Awesome experience. But aside from that, I went out and, you know, I had a thought that my grandfather wasn't going to make it through the whole summer, but at the same time, I really wanted him to, because, of course, I wanted to go see him afterwards. And, you know, I got into camp, and we had been at camp for a few weeks, and I'd started to get to know people. They'd started to get to know me. They kind of knew I was a little bit of a prankster, especially when I was around my cousin Jeff, which he was at camp as well. So we pulled some stuff, but, you know, like we were just sitting there at camp, and we were having breakfast one morning, and the camp director, Dan, he stands up, or he walks into the room, and it was like, Jeff and Justin, will you come over here, please? And we're like, oh crap, what did we do? We weren't pulling anything yesterday. What happened? And it wasn't that. It was, my other cousin Sonny was there, and Coop was there as well, which he was kind of the camp director at the time. So, or not director, but camp summer coordinator person. And they're like, Justin and Jeff, come over here, we need to talk to you guys. And so we stand up and we walk over, and we get some of the hardest, you know, news that anyone could get. And it was, Dan was like, okay, well, we wanted to let you know that your grandfather passed away in the night. And that was one of those times where, even though I was around a ton of people, and they were all like godly people, I felt alone. I didn't feel like anybody was around me. I felt like, you know, just like the bottom dropped out. And at that time, we all stood up in a big circle, and everyone was praying for us and for my family. And it was just one of those times where I just wanted to lean forwards. And even though I was standing up, I couldn't really lean forwards. But it was like I just was weeping.